What was the transition to getting your own show? Was Jerry's show already off the air?
No. So like I said, when I got my show was in 2007. Jerry didn't go off there until 2018. So, but how I got my big break was Jerry went on Dancing with the Stars.
Oh my God, I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
how did he do?
So that's funny how you say that. Because they said Jerry was going on Dancing with the Stars, and they came to me and said, you're going to host the show while he's gone.
Got it.
He's terrible. He's going to get voted off week one. You just have to do 6 shows, because back then we did 6 shows a week. Mm-hmm. I said, okay, what are you going to pay me? And they didn't want to pay me anything. I'm like, well, I'm not doing it then. But so they eventually gave me more money. But anyways, Jerry was on Dance with Star for like 7 weeks.
Oh, my God.
He did great. People loved him. Not that he was a good dancer, but
no, but they loved
Jerry. Yeah. So he didn't get voted off for like 7 weeks. Well, during that time, I kept hosting the show. And those shows.
And at the time, you guys were in Chicago,
yes.
And he had to go to LA. Is that
he
so? He wasn't even there. Okay.
No, he wasn't even there. So the shows I did rated really well. So now Jerry gets in his mind the next season. Well, I'm going to take Monday off. You host, Steve.
Oh, wow.
And so he got.
So he wasn't threatened.
And he was getting paid. No, listen, that's the great thing about Jerry. Jerry didn't have the ego. Jerry didn't worry about me. He didn't feel threatened. Like people say, oh, you're bigger than Jerry. That's bullshit. I hate when people say that. Jerry was the biggest star in the world. He was a great guy, but he never felt threatened by me. Nor should he be.
Right.
But so he would come in and be like, okay, Steve, I'm going to take Monday off. You host the shows. Well, I'd get paid extra for hosting the shows. So it was great for me. It was good for him. And so we did another season of doing that. Well, then I got a call in January of 2007, or maybe it was 2006, late 2006, and they said, hey, this is so-and-so from NBC. We're giving you a show. And my kids were babies at the time, and my wife was sleeping. It was like 10:30 at night. I was watching All in the Family, having a little vodka tonic. And I walked upstairs to tell my wife, I just got a call. I got my own TV show. My wife's still a producer on the Springer Show at this time. And I said, I got my own TV show. And she goes, are you drunk? And I said, no, man. Well, maybe, but somebody did call me. Yeah. So, and then it was, then the realization of, okay,
Did you have to pick one over the other then? You couldn't do both? Like you couldn't stay on Jerry?
No. I mean, no, I couldn't do both. So I'm going to be the host of my own show.
Yeah.
And, but then it was the realization of, oh my God, now we got to figure out what we're going to do. It's a show. Like, what kind of show am I going to do?
Right.
And we knew we couldn't do a continuation or some kind of knockoff of the Springer Show. And my wife, really, who's one of the best producers in TV, she said, listen, what are you good at? You're a cop, and you were a good cop. She goes, we're going to take you from the cop, from the streets of Chicago, and just put you on stage, and that's what we're going to do. And
wow.
It works.
Okay, so go back to when you had to host for what you thought was going to be 1 week. Did they prepare you?
No, there was no preparation.
How did that
go? Like, okay, so I was terrified, and I remember sweating like a pig because I was nervous. And like, here I've been on the show for, at that point, I was on the show for like 9 years, but I was nervous because the focus was never on me.
Right.
And so I hosted, and I was terrible. But then, like anything, you get in a groove and you start doing a show, and then it was fine. But then when I got my own show, the terror started all over again.
Right.
Because now it's the Steve Wilkos Show.
Right.
But you get used to it like anything. And
you get better
I've
with
never
time.
been a shy person. I've always been in front of crowds my whole life. So it was kind of a natural transition. And I got...
Yeah. So when you first started working with Jerry and really got into the show, can you talk about some stories that really stand out to you, or some episodes that really stand out to you that either you loved doing or that were like terrifying and you thought it was something you guys shouldn't have aired?
Well, the one shows I always hated when I started was the food shows, like the Thanksgiving, you have two families and they start throwing all the food around,
right?
Start fighting, and then you'd go up on the stage, and it was like all this, mashed potatoes and gravy on the, and you'd start slipping and falling, and your clothes would get embedded and stinky, and so I never liked those. So when I became more famous or whatever, my role on show, I hired more guys underneath me, so I always had them do all the dirty work, and then I kind of stayed out of that. But so there was one show in particular I remember. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but Jerry was going to do Ringmaster, his movie. It was like a take on the Springer Show. And he said there was a scene where he had to take his shirt off, and I think it was Jamie Presley was in the movie, and he was like, that was his love interest or whatever.
Okay.
So he goes, Steve, he goes, you got to help me work out and lift some weights. He goes, my chest is terrible. And I said, yeah, okay. So we're planning on going to start working out. Well, we start taping the Springer Show, and two girls were fighting. And all I remember is I bent down to grab the one girl, and my groin tore. My groin snapped in half.
Oh, my God.
And I never had that happen before. So I honestly thought.
Wait, you mean your pants or you mean your actual?
My actual groin.
Wow.
And yeah, not my pants. I wish it was my pants. I actually thought somebody shot me. That's how painful it was. It was just like something snapped, getting shot. And I just went down face first on the stage. And I was confused, and I was in extreme pain. And I crawled off the back of the stage, off the stage into the backstage. Mm-hmm. I started throwing up.
No way.
And I was laying on my back, and I'm just
Wait, meanwhile, is the show still going on?
The show's still going on.
Oh,
and,
my God.
We always had enough security, so now they're breaking up, and people didn't even know what happened to me. So I crawl off stage, I'm laying there, and I'm sweating, and I got throw up on me. And Jerry comes backstage, he just looks at me and goes, "Are we still working out tomorrow?" I'm like, "You fucking asshole. I'm dying here." So that was one of them. But, it's funny, the evolution of the show, because nobody expected the show was going to have a lot of fights, right? So the stage was like just a regular stage, and then it had steps to go down. Mm-hmm. And on the bottom steps was concrete. So when we started having fights, sometimes we'd fall off that stage.
Yeah.
And one time I remember I banged my jaw, and I almost knocked myself out on the concrete. So eventually, then they put padding back there on the concrete. But then the strippers and everybody that were walking out, their heels would get stuck in the padding. And they looked like baby deer walking out on stage. So then they had to get rid of that. So then they put the stage, it went all the way to the back walls and everything. So we had to do things because nobody knew that these fights were going to be happening all the time.
So was there anything, I think people always are like, oh, that can't be real. These people are talking about things that are just so ridiculous. Did anything feel staged?
Well, there was stuff that was certainly exaggerated and more for entertainment. When the midget was dating the hot stripper, those obviously were not real.
But it was because they called up and made up something to get on the show?
Well, I think some of the producers made up those type of stories.
Got it, okay.
But when we had the love triangles and those hillbillies were just whipping ass, those are real stories.
Oh my God.
That guy was sleeping with that dude's wife, and there's no shortage of that in America.
No, of course not. But how would you guys find, I remember the days of, was it Jenny Jones? And at the end of the program, she'd say, if you had sex with someone, but it was their mother and, all these crazy things that you had.
Well, we would do that too.
You did? Okay. So that's how you found
so people would call in. And then, but
these are all people that want to be on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on. Would we go on TV show and talk about?
Probably not.
Probably not.
No.
But guests would come on from someplace in Kentucky or Indiana or Ohio. And then we'd say, hey, do you got anybody else that, and sure enough, like people from small towns who've never been on a plane, never spent the night in a hotel, they come to the Chicago, and we put them up in a nice hotel, and they fly them in, and we're picking them up in limousines, and we're treating them like they're the star.
Sure, yeah.
It's a big draw.
Yeah, of course.